Trustees of the Lamar Consolidated Independent School District is called to order at 6:30 p.m. This is the regular monthly board meeting being held on November the 16th, 2021. We have a quorum with all members present. Please join me in a moment of silence to observe as you feel appropriate. All right, please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and pledge to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. On the Texas flag, I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. All right. Dr. Nivens, are there any recognitions or awards?
No, ma'am, there are no recognitions this evening.
Okay. Are there any introductions?
Yes, ma'am, there is one introduction. I'll turn it over to Ms. Music.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Nivens. So tonight we have with us our newest assistant principal at George Ranch High School, Markeisha Coy, is here with her son, Aiden. Markeisha Coy is an August 2002 graduate of Texas A&M University with a bachelor's degree in nutritional sciences. She received a master's degree in 2007 in business administration from the University of Phoenix. Ms. Coy has 11 years of experience in education, including 9 years of teaching and 2 years as a math facilitator. Mrs. Coy.
Ms. Fossick, are there any public comments?
Yes, Madam President. If you wish to address the board, you must fill out a card and submit it before the presiding officer calls the meeting to order. While speakers generally have 5 minutes to address the board, the presiding officer may establish an overall time limit for public comment and adjust the time allotted to each speaker when necessary to accommodate a large number of speakers. However, no speaker shall be given less than 1 minute. All of this is in compliance with House Bill 2840. Each speaker tonight will have 5 minutes. While the board values hearing from members of the public, trustees may not respond to comments as they are prohibited by law from discussing or deciding any subject that is not on the board's publicly noticed agenda. Speakers having complaints against individual district employees or trustees may only address the board after filing a complaint form in the manner provided for in board policy DGBA for employee complaints, F and G for student and parent complaints, and GF for public complaints. The presiding officer or designee shall determine whether a speaker has filed a complaint according to policy. Any speakers who complain of individual district employees or trustees during public comment will be directed by the presiding officer to stop addressing the board and will refer the speaker to the appropriate complaint policy. When you come forward, please state your name. Our first speaker is Rebecca Clark.
Oh dear,
Don't start yet.
can I close it? Okay. So good evening.
Has the timer on it.
Oh my gosh, okay, thank you. Don't start over. Okay. Okay, I'll just get right to it. I think that we can all agree that children should not be exposed to or have access to pornography, vulgarity, or illegality, and certainly not in their schools and on the taxpayer's dime. Yet this is what is happening in LCISD. I have spoken before about such content being made available in book fairs, school libraries, online libraries, and in-class assignments in LCISD. There is a growing coalition of parents, grandparents, and concerned community members who have grown weary of our children being exposed to this type of content instead of being protected from it. I have put forth a proposal to Mr. Bates and Dr. Mossage to form a committee comprised of parents and faculty who will be charged with performing an internal audit of the current content of the LCISD libraries, online included, in-class materials, and book fairs. Once the audit of existing materials has been accomplished, we implement a permanent vetting system in place such that every item must meet certain standards before it is allowed in the school district in any capacity. Now, lest you think this is all hyperbole, I have selected a couple of pages from a book available for checkout here in LCISD. Yeah, Earl, I'm gonna eat her pussy. Huh? Yeah. Do you even know how to eat pussy? Not really. Papa Gaines never sat you down, said, son, one day you're gonna have to eat the pussy. No, but he did teach me how to eat a butthole. When Earl's in full-on gross-out mode, you have to play along or you'll feel stupid. God bless that man. Yep, I wish he would teach you some pussy-eating technique, but it's a little complicated. That's a shame. I would need some diagrams and whatnot. Well, tonight maybe you can draw some up. Son, I don't have time for that. I got like 20 pussies over here that I need to eat. Is that right? Yeah, I'm on a pussy deadline. You've got 20 vaginas all lined up in a row? What the hell? What the hell? No one is talking about vaginas. Greg, what the hell is wrong with you, man? That's nasty. I'll skip over. Now shut the fuck up. You care so fucking much about what other people think, you gotta be secretive as shit. Gotta go around sucking everybody's dick, pretending like they're your friend because you care so much about what they think. Let me fucking tell you, nobody gives a shit about you. Nobody thinks shit about you. You ain't got no friends. You ain't got nobody who gives a fucking shit about you. Okay. Fucking everybody at school could give a shit about you, man. I could keep going. We've got F every other word. Stop your fucking crying bitch ass. Okay, that's only a snippet from this book, and it's only one book, and I have quite a long list of others just like it. I could literally walk out of here and go file a legitimate police report for the district having pornography being made available to minors. I cannot fathom that any parent would be calling or writing any one of you to complain that this type of material is not being made available to their children. I'm so mad Johnny can't check out books with sexually explicit content. It really ticks me off that little Sally has a book with no expletives in it. This is a no-brainer. I'm in communication with several state reps, including Representative Matt Krause, who has initiated an investigation into school libraries, and I've made him aware that there is content in this district that needs to be audited. But we can get ahead of the audit, as I have a better vision for our district. A vision of LCISD as a trailblazer, and ultimately the gold standard of fair and safe learning environment for all children who attend school here. One that protects children, not exposes them. One that nurtures them, not degrades them. I honestly believe that if we work on how to implement this plan now and get ahead of the audit that will be coming, parents and school districts across the state, and yes, the nation, will one day look to LCISD and its administrators and say, we want what they've got, how do we do it? And we can gladly show them. Thank you.
Our second speaker is Ernestina. Blown? Brown, okay.
Good evening. My husband and I are deeply concerned about the literature that is given to our sixth graders, also to our elementary school daughter. One day we came home, she started to tell us what the contents of the book, Touch and Spirit Bear, was about, and I started to research a little bit more, and I thought that it was extremely violent, bloody, gory, and it showed a human degradation that we don't think it's appropriate for our daughters. We went to the school already, and they told us they're aware our children are not going to be participating in the reading of that material. But I think it's also inappropriate to kind of segregate them in the school. And it's also inappropriate for the rest of the children, because I have thought deeply about this, and I think that it creates, in the long term, a psychological damage for our children, all of them assisting to school. Most of the books that I have in here, most of them, I did a quick research, And they have above maturity level content. They are brutal, the violence is extreme, it's terrifying, it's distressful, it has suicidal notions. Yeah, they also have historical inaccuracies that it's not as damaging, because that's something we can talk about, how different things are perceived in a different way. However, most of these things develop on an dysfunctional families, broken families, fragmented families, and it gives our children, life is hard, we know, but it's sort of a depressive view of the world in which they constantly had to be there. My daughter has a friend whose goal in life was to become a serial killer, who already said she wanted to commit arson. She said she would prefer to live in a foster home because she's not having it good at her home. And how is it that going to school so that she gets more of this that she probably is living at her home, probably she's just grabbing attention, we don't know. But how is it that giving her more content on these subjects is going to make things easier for her? We're worried about the violence in high school, we're worried about the violence in middle schools, and we feel that if we continue with this trend, it's a danger for our children to go to school. We don't want to be away from our community. We want to be a part of it, and we want to build together. So we need to do something in this respect. We also went to the material content that is available for social studies is inappropriate for our children because they are showing the news. They're every day they were shown 10 minutes of CNN in which they could not do anything else. I don't want my daughter to be upset or concerned about different things that it's even hard for us adults to comprehend and to elucidate. Therefore, I already went to the school again. She already was separated from that. And I still think that it's not appropriate for the rest of the children, and it endangers the community in which my daughters are living their day to day. I had taken some time to evaluate the literature for 6th grade. Out of approximately 30 books, I was only able to recognize one, which I think it's an interesting book. None of the classic literature is available as a supportive educational material for our children. And I think we need to get together to do something, because apparently I am the only parent that so far in that school has been, has noticed what has happened in there. Many parents probably are working and they don't have the time to do that. It's time consuming to look at all of that. So I'm also proposing to form a committee of parents so that we are a part of the selection process of this literature and educational resources for our children in social studies. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's all, Madam President.
Thank you. Okay, are there any board member reports?
I got to go out to Bowie and George Junior High and Navarro Middle School recently. I hadn't been to those schools in about 2 years, so it was good to be back on those campuses. I've done a lot of other things, as we all have in the last month, but that's the most recent that comes to mind.
All right, very nice. Thank you. Mr. Lambert?
On November 5th, we were able to take 381 of our high school CTE students on a field trip to Wharton County Junior College. So those students from all the high schools got to go visit the campus. I got to be able to speak on behalf of being part of the chamber, but also a business in the CTE area here. And so these students, they went around, met local employers here in Fort Bend County. They were able to sit and listen to a panel of some local people that graduated from Wharton Junior College, and then they heard about the real life dollars and earning potential that can be made right here in Fort Bend County. So it was good to see our students. Our students seemed excited, and they were going around meeting all these employers and seeing all the things that are available for them after graduation.
Nice.
Dr. Lazar did great.
All right. Thank you. Anyone else? Ooh. Yes.
Okay, a lot of good things are going on and getting back to normal in our district. I was able to go to Frosty Market a couple weeks ago. They didn't have it last year. Thank you. Lunches of Love got to do their walk for childhood hunger this weekend, which again is so well supported by our community, and they really do so much for our children. And this Saturday night, I was invited to the Pro-Grad Foster Senior Serve, and it just does your heart good to see how hard those kids worked and the parents worked to put on a wonderful dinner and support the students for their graduation. And then I was having to do Nana duty in Austin, and about the same time, there was a fall legal seminar at the TASB building, which ended up being like 15 minutes from my daughter's house, so I did for the day do that seminar. And if any other board member in the future, because I think most of them are not going to be close by now, and they did have a virtual on November 12th. It was very enlightening. There are things that they talked about that we do know about, that we've heard about, but then they did a lot of updates because we've had so many special sessions, and made clarity. Some of the areas they did was on parental rights, board member advocacy, opening meetings after COVID-19, legislative updates. So those are things that are, things that we are working with day to day, and there's some areas that if any other board members would like some of the information I got, I'd love to share. But anyway, it was very, very interesting, and I got to be around adults for a few hours, so that was nice too.
Thank you. Couple things. Did you want to talk about the epicenter? You go ahead.
Well, we did have a groundbreaking for the new epicenter that's going to be opening up. Oh gosh, I'm not sure what the date is. Not this year, but next year.
Yeah, sometime. Yeah.
So that's going to be a great facility for our community, and hopefully we might be able to host some graduations there in the future, amongst other things. So excited about that.
It's exciting. Thank you. Thanks. I got to go to, for a bit, the George Ranch Senior Serve, and so that was, it's always fun to see all the creative ideas, and everybody comes out. It was a neat time. And also Dr. Nivens and I got to present at the Fort Bend Chamber, and so it was well attended and well supported by our administration, and so it was a good opportunity for us to share with the community about the good things happening here. So, all right, Dr. Nivens, is there a superintendent report?
Yes, ma'am. So we were able to host our first ever Building Better Communities luncheon, and we invited all 15 of our mayors and our city managers and our individuals from the county, engineer, and individuals from the county to help us with our construction projects. And so of the 15, I think about 8 showed up, along with some mayors and city council and some engineers, and we were able to have a great conversation about the vision of the district and what we're trying to do, but also just to be partners in helping us make sure that we have a great timeline in as we start building more buildings. As everyone knows, that we are a fast growth district, and I think we have about 250 portables in our district. And so that's quite a few. That's over 500 classrooms, portable classrooms in our school district. And that's quite a few. And so, we're just having conversations about, with our city managers and our mayors about permitting processes and things like that we can expedite so we can make sure that we get campuses up, still get quality campuses up, but get them up sooner and quicker so we can make sure that we have our students in a great environment.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will take action on the consent agenda and current action items. We will pull item 9A1. Oh wait, that is, That's already an action item. Okay, are there any other items that the board would like to pull at this time?
I have a question on 8R.
8R. Would you like to pull that?
It doesn't necessarily need to be pulled. I just want to ask the administration a question or two about it, so however we need to do it.
Can we just do that now? Needs to be pulled.
Okay, let's pull it.
All right.
I'd like to pull 8N, 8O, and 9A1.
And we're
Yes, sir.
pulling the 9A1 already, yes.
Oh, okay,
Yep,
okay.
so you're good, yep. All right. Anybody else? Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the current consent agenda and action items with the exception of items 8N, 8O, 8R, and 9A1?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Welch makes the motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Hunt, sorry, he beat you. Mr. Hunt seconds. Any discussion? Okay, hearing none, I call for the vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. All right. First, we will read the donations on page 24. Alex, would you read that, please?
Madam
24.
President, there was an addendum at your seat.
Oh, yes, thank you. So, this page.
The Adolphus Elementary PTO donated $5,160 to purchase 8 water bottle stations for Adolphus Elementary School. The Frost PTO donated $6,006 to purchase Think Up math materials for Frost Elementary School. And the Women's Club of Sweetgrass donated $10,000 to purchase a television for the cafeteria and shade structure and other playground equipment at Jane Long Elementary School.
All right, we appreciate the donations. Very nice. Okay, so we will start with item 8N on page 83. Okay, do I have a motion to consider the approval of design development for elementary school number 32? Ms. Danziger makes a motion. Mr. Hudak makes a second. Sorry. All, okay. Any discussion?
So I just had a couple questions on this one. So I noticed on, well, it's not, there's no number, but on the site plan, that there's a spot for marquee. And I know that in the past, the district hasn't provided the funds for marquees for schools, and that it's been up to the PTOs to put together the money for that. Is the district now providing the funds, and is that being built at the same time as the campuses, or is that just a marker showing where the marquee would go?
It's a marker showing where it would go. The fact that we are in so many different municipalities, some allow marquees, some do not, some have different stipulations on them, but we do identify an area where the marquee, if placed, would go, and we get feedback from former campuses of what the best location would be as they look at traffic flow. Where would the most folks see it as they drive up to the school? So it's just an identified location.
Is there any type of pre-wiring that would be helpful to the campuses and cut down costs when they do eventually decide whether they're gonna have a marquee, or is that already done?
Well, let me interject, because that's a part of the conversation that we're gonna have, as we talked about building better communities with the mayors and the city managers, because, all the different municipalities have different, regulations on marquees. And so as we engage in those individual conversations, that's gonna be something that the district's gonna pick up, those marquees.
Okay.
And so as we start the design process, we're gonna have conversations with the cities about what can we do. And then we'll start phasing in different approaches, because it would be beneficial if we would be able to have digital marquees instead of having our staff go out there with that big long stick and those letters slapping the board. And so those are conversations that we're going to have. But the expectation I have is that we pick that up after we have a conversation with the city government about what they will allow us to do. But that's the part of the conversation that we'll have.
Okay. So at this time, is there any type, is it just, that's where it is, or is it pre-wired for something to be out there? And I realize that you might not know because you don't know.
When we
if it's-
identify the location, we do pre-run conduit, but we don't pull wire.
Okay.
But there is conduit that's in the ground.
Okay, great.
But again, we're gonna take care of all that. We're not gonna put that on the school.
Okay, good deal. One other question on this, and not for this, because I know that we recycle the elementary school plans, so that way we don't have to reinvent the wheel each time. But one thing that I've noticed just from dropping my daughters off at school is that when you look at the site plan,
Which page are you on?
there's page 10. The staff and visitor parking, that's where folks will go in and park, and then if they need to walk their kids into school, they'll park there, and then they'll go across where it says parent drop-off. There's usually like a walkway.
Yes.
Has it ever been considered to, or is there a way to put the parking some other place so that there's not kids passing in front of the parent drop-off? So like if you move the parking lot to a different place, so that way the car line wouldn't have to have kids going in front of it. Does that make sense?
It does, and we do get feedback from the campuses that are in this design and make tweaks and work with our architects on that. As we look at traffic flow and where the staff has to park, we need to figure out exactly what's going to be the best location for that scenario that you've talked about. We spent some time taking a look at that traffic flow, and I understand what you're saying. The challenges as we fit that onto the site, that there's that is the best location for that staff and visitor parking.
Sure, okay. And I know a lot of the campuses are set up like this, like my kid's elementary school is set up the same way where the parking lot is there. And it might just be logistically with the setup that we have now, but I'm sure at some point we're gonna go back to the drawing board and get lots of input and maybe rework this a little bit. And so just something that I noticed and other parents that I've spoken with have noticed as well.
Right, and when you look at, it's actually for the layout of the campus where you've got the entry points. So you want to
Right.
put the parking adjacent to the entry points.
Right. Okay, that's all I had.
So let me add, so for future reference, at the end of the day, team, this is something that you have to approve. And so engaging in those conversations early would be beneficial for us. And so we have our architects in the room, and so it doesn't cost us anything to go back and ask them those questions. And so we can ask those questions, and if it's feasible and if it's not gonna cost an exorbitant amount of money that's outside of the bond, then we can do those things. But we wanna make sure that whatever we present, that you're comfortable with voting for. And so, but yeah, those are good comments, because I'm sure that you're getting comments from other parents in the community, and so you bring that forward, which is what should be happening. And so we can take that back to our architect, and he's actually sitting back there taking notes. And then we can see if it's feasible, and then we can bring a report back to the board and let you know.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
All right, none opposed, motion carries. Okay, next item is 8O on page 84. Do I have a motion to consider approval of design development for agricultural facility number 3?
I'll move.
Mr. Hunt makes a motion, Mr. Lambert seconds. Any discussion?
I do. I just had, again, a question on this one. So I noticed on page 8 on the site plan for this, that there's only 14 parking spaces. Is that enough? I mean, there won't be more than 14 people there at a time typically?
That's a good question. That's something we need to take a look at. That's a very good question.
Okay.
Kevin, you have the,
Well, what I was gonna say is, it is taken directly off of a repeat from this, tag line number 2. And all of those areas are not concrete, they're gravel. So if we need to expand, gravel is very easy to expand.
I guess there's not been in Ag Barn number 2 a reason to expand that very
We
much.
haven't had any issues with it at all.
Yeah, and from having been there, people kind of just park. There is no real structure, everybody lined up.
So are folks just, if there's no spots, they just kind of go off the beaten path here and they park where they can?
It's all on the gravel. What I'm saying is there's no structure like lines.
Okay.
And like your typical parking lot, like such as out here in the front of the building. Because there's trailers and other things that are kind of parked at those locations.
As you look at the white area that designates the handicap spots, that is concrete.
Okay.
The other part is gravel. That's the salmon color.
And in those, okay, I see what you're saying. Okay, that was the only question I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
What, the perimeter fencing, because that's gonna separate that and the elementary school right there. What is that fencing? Is it like chain link or is it gonna be like it's chain link?
Yeah,
Like, is
chain
it like an 8 foot high or is it gonna be just a normal
Typically 6 feet.
6 feet?
Yes. 6 feet on that.
All right, any more discussion? Okay, so hearing none, I call for the vote. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
All right, none opposed, motion carries. Okay, next, we have 8R, which is page 91.
And Mr. Lambert kind of asked a little bit what I was going to ask.
Yes.
The way it's worded in page
Let
90.
me make the motion
Oh.
first, sorry. So excited, sorry.
Yes, that was, wait to ask my question.
Do I have a motion to consider approval of security fence installation?
I will make that
All right,
motion.
thank you, Mr. Welch, making the motion. Mr. Hubenet seconds. Mr. Welch, would you like to go first?
To ask my question.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, the way it's worded in the board book that you guys gave us, it's very vague. For installation of security fencing throughout the district. Is there specific areas that are already targeted or in mind?
We had a list going into the 2020 bond of areas that needed additional fencing and/or panic gates and hardware. So we had that list, and we brought that list as part of that line item for the safety and security. That also allows us to be flexible if we need to adjust that. But yes, we do have that in there, and at various campuses throughout the district, it's already been
I remember those discussions about the 2020 bond, when we were talking about that in this room. So these might be the fences that are 4 feet higher, and then some other that are taller, is that right?
typically 6 feet.
6 feet.
Yes. Mhm.
So they're,
And then when we do that, again, if it's for access and egress, that fenced area also has panic gates and hardware.
okay.
This will include Taylor Ray and Travis, correct?
Correct. Taylor Ray is actually two different fencing projects. There's one to fence around the existing portables, and then an item that was added by the 2020 bond committee was to fence the playground area, the track.
It'll be like the grassy area between the two schools?
Correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion, questions? Okay, so I call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Okay, next item is 9A1 on page 169.
all right, Board, I'd like to bring up Ms. Ludwig, our CFO.
Bring up the presentation back
Good evening, Board of Trustees, Dr. Nevins. I'd like to talk about our ESSER 3 Part 1 Use of Funds Plan. We call it Part 1 because the state distributed 2/3 of the total allotment under ESSER 3, and the remaining 1/3 will be released at the end of this month or the beginning of next month. So as you'll recall, in October, the board reviewed the ESSER 3 Part 1 Use of Funds Plan. Part 1 relates to the first 2/3. Lamar's total allocation is $21.77 million. These are one-time funds, and they're intended to support a comprehensive learning recovery effort in Texas, and these are 3-year funds, so this is a 3-year award. The state and all the districts pretty much in the state expect to amend these funds or this award numerous times over the 3-year period. So we refer to it as a living award. This is administered by the TEA, and all recipients of the funds have to adhere to certain requirements for eligibility to draw down the funds. We have to follow federal and state procurement regulations. We have to file required applications and reports. We also have to post a use of funds plan on our website, which is there, and it states how the funds will be used by the district. We plan to implement a COVID-19 prevention plan and deploy mitigation strategies to safely reopen and stay open. We operate facilities for in-person learning. We're addressing learning loss. We're required to earmark 20% of these funds to address learning loss. And then we have to also show in our plan how we plan to spend the rest of the ESSER funds. During the summer and during the budget process, the Board Budget Committee did discuss numerous options of how to use these funds. Of course, to approach remedying the learning loss that has occurred from the COVID-19 pandemic, and also to mitigate further impact of the pandemic on student success. We did take stakeholder input and gathered and to determine the best use of the funds. We did provide those results of the surveys during our budget process. Preliminary work has begun. We have started the acquisition of screening, assessment, and curriculum software, the establishment of temporary stipend and pay categories, and other strategies that will contribute to educational excellence in all functional areas of the district. As required, we're implementing COVID-19 prevention and mitigation plans. We'll be purchasing disinfectant wipes for technology equipment and supplementing the district's heightened cleaning regimen. We will be addressing learning loss. We will actually be earmarking more than the 20% that's required. We'll be using those funds for increasing tutoring for direct remedial student instruction. We'll be providing social and emotional support programming. We'll provide behavioral supports for students with disabilities and those that are in special ed courses, and we'll also do some summer school programming with the funds. The remaining funds will be used for software, various types, for screening and assessment, and also for virtual access to courses. We'll be buying instructional materials for all students, including those directed toward resource and inclusion classes in special ed. We'll be spending a substantial amount of the funds on substitutes, substitute teacher costs and incentives, technology equipment for students, additional personnel units for reading and math at secondary, also a substantial amount for extra duty pay and other staff stipends and pay categories. And we'll also allocate funds to address funding shortfalls in the general fund and in the employee benefits plans. With that, I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Lambert has a question.
With the extra technology purchases and all that, I don't know if this is a question for you or technology, but will this essentially get us to a one-to-need district, or will this help us get closer to that?
Probably David would be better at answering that, but I think we're probably already at a one-to-need, and I think we're probably approaching a one-to-one.
Right now, we have about 22,000 laptops, and I can't remember, it's around, I think, 12,000 iPads, so we're already approaching a one-to-need, or we're already at one-to-need, really. We were able to meet the needs of all the virtual learners and everything. We still got a little ways to go for a one-to-one.
Okay, so with this if we're at the one to need now, are they able to take it home, or are these ones that stay in the laptop carts at?
They're the ones, they stay on campus.
Okay.
We did check them out to virtual learners during the pandemic, but
So if we have students now that currently say they need to take a computer home because they're in AP or pre-AP classes and they have to do their homework at home, do we allow that? Will
it's up
this get us there?
It's up to the campus. The campus can certainly check those out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Ms. Ludwig. Okay, so we need a vote on that. So, do I have a motion to consider approval of ESSER 3, Part 1, Use of Funds Plan? Ms. Danziger makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Mr. Hubenak seconds. All in favor, raise your hand, say aye. All in favor, none opposed, motion carries. All right, so we will now have presentations on the information items.
Yes, ma'am. Madam President and Board, now we will discuss our bond refunding program we just completed. So Ms. Ludwig is back.
So this is what we discussed last month. We were going into pricing and selling the bonds. This transaction will close on November the 30th, and it turned out just as exciting as we had hoped it would. As you'll recall, in September, you adopted the order to sell the bonds that would refund some outstanding bonds. Those bonds were originally issued in 2012 and 2016, and the refunding bonds will cover refunding those bonds and also pay the cost of issuance of the new bonds. So we issued bonds with a par amount of $141.415 million, and we did not extend the life of any of the previously outstanding bonds, and the refunded bonds, or the previously outstanding bonds that we refunded, totaled $156.575. So you'll see that we issued less in amount of bonds than we had previously outstanding. We anticipate the gross savings to the district to be $39.98 million, so right at $40 million, and that's on a cash basis. The present value savings is $34.854 million, and that would be over 22% of the refunded bonds, which is unheard of, and we're very proud of that. The average interest rate of the bonds refunded was 4.57%, and the interest cost of the new bonds is right at 2.25%. So it's substantially less. So with that, I can answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Way to go.
Yes, wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Well, the market has a lot to do with it, as do our underwriters and our financial advisors, so we're very blessed.
Yes, that's awesome. Thank you.
All right, next we'll have Mr. Bates to talk about our 22-23 student course selection catalog.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Nivens. Good evening, Board of Trustees. Tonight's information item is an overview of our newly overhauled 2022-23 student course catalog. The course catalog is a complete listing of state and locally approved courses for LCISD students. In this booklet that you have in front of you, it can be used for parents to assist their students in choosing courses for the upcoming school year. The student course catalog is intended for our secondary schools, and the makeup of our secondary schools, of course, are middle school, 6th grade students, junior high school students grades 7 through 8, and of course, high school grades 9 through 12. Inside the course catalog, parents will be able to find our various graduation plans and, of course, the graduation requirements that are associated with those graduation plans. And they'll also be able to find a detailed course description for each course that the students and the parents are choosing to attempt for the next school year. They'll also be able to find additional information, such as additional resources or potential funds that may be associated with the courses, such as if there's any band rental fees, art supply fees, any fees that may be associated with advanced placement testing, or of course, any potential costs that it comes to students that are attempting dual credit courses. The course catalog is organized in order from high school down to junior high school and then middle school. And of course, at each level, each of those levels begin with the traditional courses of English language arts, math, science, and social studies. And then you'll have the additional enrichment courses, which we know as, of course, as electives, courses such as fine arts, PE, health, CTE courses, technology application, of course, and fine arts. The course catalog, believe it or not, is also used by our high-level institutions. So any of our students that are attempting to gain college credit, the universities may go back and refer to our course catalog that we have in place to ensure that the students' course that they took with LCISD met the rigor, and of course the course description aligns with what they consider to be the college course. And that's for typically our students that are attempting dual credit dual enrollment, and of course for advanced placement. And next, I'm really excited about a future course that we're looking to add to LCISD, and it's targeted toward our 6th through 8th grade students. This program is called the Kickstart Kids Program, and in this program, it teaches students character through martial arts or karate. It's an alternate PE course, and it's another way that we want to ensure that our students are having the opportunity to be connected to the schools and being taught character. We know that we have several programs that do a great job of that in the area of athletics, but everyone is not an athlete. In the area, of course, through fine arts, but everyone is not a musician. So we wanted to make sure we had an alternate opportunity for students to kind of learn those character lessons. As you can see on the graph in the great big red area, the Kickstart program is housed out of the Houston area, so the Houston area is kind of their biggest clients, and we're looking to make sure that we pilot that for the first year here in LCISD. Some of the courses that are character traits that are taught throughout the year are courses or lessons of honesty, loyalty, courage, discipline, respect, dedication, kindness, and responsibility. And as the students matriculate and progress throughout the program, as you can see, twice a year they have a belt ceremony where students are kind of awarded the next level of belt that they've earned. And as you can see, you may recognize his face. This program is founded by the great Chuck Norris. And from time to time at the belt ceremonies, typically at the end of the ceremonies, he may actually make a presentation to try to inspire the students. So with that being said, up next, I'm going to present to you Lindsay Troutman, the Director of College Career Military Readiness, for additional updates in the area of advanced academics.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm excited to be here. You'll note in the course catalog there's now an additional section between pages 19 to 27, which gives some additional detail to our advanced academics courses, all the way from a brand new logo, but all of the courses that we currently offer, and of course this is always evolving. That includes the Texas core component areas, so any college-bearing course that you can find that fits in that Texas core as students work across. This goes all the way from AP, dual credit, and dual enrollment. It then has our currently approved courses with Lone Star College, always evolving and continuing to add as we add those college credit-bearing courses. It then goes into descriptions of some common questions or FAQ that parents generally have between on-ramps, dual credit, AP. What's the best way for what the student's goals are. So every course has its benefit with college credit, but it's really based on our students' academic goals. And so it gives some of those common layouts, transferability, cost, all of those things. And so we're really excited about the added section. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Lazar, the Director of CTE.
Good evening. Before we enter into the next portion of this presentation, it's really important for you guys to understand how CTE courses are structured. So we have a total of 5 endorsements that students can earn upon graduation from high school. In 3 of those endorsements, CTE courses are broken into what we call career clusters. Then within the career clusters, there are programs of study, and the state defines what courses can go in those programs of study. What you see on the screen now is the enrollment percentages in each career cluster for the 21-22 school year. I went through all of these and I did a 5-year data analysis on enrollment for each program of study within these career clusters. Programs of study with an enrollment of 1% or less, other than our shared programs that have a capped enrollment, were identified and will be removed for the 22-23 school year. Student enrollment in the courses that you see on the screen, enrollment and interest in these programs, they've been consistently low over the last 5 years. And you've been provided with the data that shows all of these statistics that start on page 175 of your board book. Please know that we will continue to evaluate the data to determine student interest and also our community labor needs to make sure that we are implementing programs of study to feed students in a pipeline that are ready for the workforce. On the screen now are some additions that we're adding for the 22-23 school year. In order to align with the courses and the state-approved program of study, we are having to make adjustments to the following CTE programs of study for the 22-23 school year. All of the bolded items are additions or adjustments being made to the bolded programs of study listed on the screen. We're adding business management and retail management as new course offerings. We're adding a dental assistant pathway due to student interest. We're also adding a practicum in pharmacy to our pharmacy pathway, and we're replacing CNA with patient care technician. We will be offering 2 pathways in computer science. Students will be able to choose to take the AP route or a new academic route geared towards certification attainment and career readiness in computer programming. According to the state, the welding program of study falls under the manufacturing career cluster. A lot of our welding students obviously want to compete in FFA through manufacturing and all of that good stuff, but unfortunately they have to be enrolled in an ag class. So we're going to be keeping the dual welding pathway, but any student who is welding and wants to stay on campus, that student will be transitioned to the applied ag engineering pathway, which is still welding, but it falls under the ag cluster for those students to participate in FFA. And finally, due to low enrollment in the upper level courses of the plant science program of study, we'll be adding the advanced floral design course, as well as a practicum in floral design to facilitate and encourage CTE completers in that pathway. At this time, we'll take questions.
I have one.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and I understand. Okay, the early learning, is that if a student wanted to have a pathway towards going into a field of teaching and education? No.
So there are 2 programs of study under that career cluster
Okay.
currently. One is the early learning and one is the teaching and learning. The intro course is principles of education. If you look at that and what's happening from that course, they're choosing to go teaching and learning,
Okay.
but not early learning.
Okay, so we still have a pathway
To
for-
education, yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you. I was a little worried.
Yes.
Dr. Lazar, would you go back one slide?
Sure.
So the programming and software development program of study, how is that different from the information technology program?
That's the computer science program. That's what computer science falls under, the programming and software development program of study. IT is like computer maintenance.
Okay. And in these programs that we're, not, the programs of study that we're not going to have, the principals courses in them that did have fairly good enrollment, are those courses still?
So that's a good question. We will be keeping Money Matters. I don't
Okay.
know if you noticed that is there's large enrollment in that, and it's a very beneficial course. So we'll be keeping Money Matters. We'll be keeping Principles of Information Technology, as well as Lifetime Nutrition and Wellness. Those will be elective options, but they will not be attached to a program of study.
Okay. Because it seems like those courses are, you know, a lot of students are in them, but then the courses that come after the students. So
Correct.
that makes sense. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
That's a good question. I had that question too. Did you have something, Mr. Lambert? So I was just gonna make a comment, I guess. Well, one, this looks really nice. I know it's been updated, so well done, looks good. Also, the Kickstart, I'm excited about that. I know Dr. Nivens talked about that, but I met a lady that works for them at the Fort Bend Chamber, and she was so, you know, she was so passionate about it, and she was crying about it, how wonderful she sees the confidence built in the students and so many more things than just the actual athletic part of it, you know. So I'm excited that we're gonna have it, yeah. So, yeah. That's it.
I was gonna say, good job, team. Good job.
you.
This is something that we are venturing in and making sure that when students leave us, if they want, they have the ability to graduate with an associate's degree. And so, as I've always said, it's a double-edged sword, because if a student graduates with an associate's degree, they have to be mature enough when they go to college to be able to matriculate forward in the system. And so as we're having these conversations, we're also going to start having conversations about counseling students, that if they go that path, how do we make sure the student and the parent are aware of what the expectations will be? Because then there'll be an 18-year-old college junior. And so that has its own challenges. That has its own challenges. But, you know, everything we do is not for everyone, but everything we do is for someone. And so that's what we want to do, is meet as many needs as possible. And then finally, on the Kickstart program, I had it on my campus when I was a middle school principal many moons ago. And my middle school was considered to be a chronically violent middle school. And we brought Chuck Norris and his team to our middle school and completely transformed the culture and the mindset of our young people to have more self-respect, to have more respect for others and their peers. And it was transformative to what it did for our middle school back then. So anyway, I'm just excited. And Dr. Bates and his team, Mr. Bates and his team are doing a phenomenal job, so I appreciate it. Well, I'm going to speak it because he's doing it. Yeah, he's almost there. But phenomenal job, team. Phenomenal job.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, board, next we'll have our bond update from Mr. Junty.
Oh, good evening again. So a few items to make you aware of, as we always share. We had 61 pay applications in October. We were busy for a total of $7,101,853.83. A couple projects to update you on. First is Fletcher Morgan Elementary School. We're taking substantial completion this month, any day, and furniture installation will also begin this month. We do want to point out a couple things about the site. As you look here, these connectors, this is the responsibility of the developer. And at this time, they have not yet finished tying into the roadway. There will also be some roadway improvements that will occur. This is the responsibility of the developer. LCISD has done everything on their part to take care of the roadway, so we're just waiting on them to take care of this final part. Also, an additional issue is right here, there will be a traffic light. We have been informed by TxDOT that probably will not be operational until February. So in that process, we've already had conversations with our wonderful LCISD Police Department and with the principal, and we will make sure that every day until that is operational that we've got folks there to make sure that that intersection will be safe and for our kids and for our families.
Before you move forward, Mr. Johnson, let me interject. So, again, a main reason why we were having our conversations with building better communities and talking with our mayors and city managers. I'm not sure if I'm able to say her name, but actually the tie-in and the traffic light was actually delayed significantly. And then I called an advocate of the district, and she sent one email. She sent one email, and all of a sudden, we have movement, and it's going to be there in February. But before she sent that email, we were told it may not be operational this school year at all. And so, anyway, but that's the power of relationships and the power of advocacy.
I have a question, sir. Is the developer dragging their feet, or is that going to be done on time by January?
We have been notified that this tie-in will be finished by
Will
January.
be finished.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
there's no concerns there with it.
When it's done, we'll be excited. Again,
Do we want to name the developer to put a little pressure on them publicly?
No.
But that's been like that for a while.
We have confidence that the developer will have that done. So,
Very good.
again, at this point, the main thing, and again, there'll be some additional work that would be done along this area for an extended turn lane, but we do have every confidence that this will be complete by the time school is open.
Is that the only way into that school is off of, or is there a back way too?
There is a back roadway that will be completed through here.
Okay.
All right. And there are several roads that are just north of it that are under construction and working on tie-ins, as well as the subdivision that will be in this area that will also have a roadway tie-in.
And we've had it so that when they do have those roads developed, that they will filter in correctly into the path of how they're supposed to.
Yes, a traffic study's part of the process when we build the
Okay.
campus. and we do that to make sure that that occurs. Yes.
Okay, so,
There, and I think part of what you may be asking is the entire development going to come out this, and that is, they'll have other access egress points as well.
I think Mr. Hunt had a question.
Yes, sir.
Is that a makeshift roadway that when we went and did the tour, that one, is that going to go away, or is that?
Yes, that was the construction entrance.
Okay.
Kevin, are they doing away with that roadway? Yes, it will go away. Yeah, that's,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank you.
that's a bumpy ride.
Mm-hmm.
Bumpy ride. So we're moving along. Just another example of some other work that we're doing in our bond work. This is Williams Elementary School. When this roadway was upgraded, it created some different access egress challenges for the campus. So we're adding some parts here, moving a basketball court, adding some new concrete bus drive here for better traffic flow, as well as we're extending the canopy here. This was some work that was done to the front of the campus in the last bond, and now we're extending the bus canopy so those kids will be out of the sun and the rain waiting for the bus. Any questions? All right.
I just wanted to say to Dr. Nevins, so thank you for working on building those relationships, because that's really helping benefit everybody to be able to make a phone call or send an email and get that kind of stuff done. So well done working on that, yes, on those relationships.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So our next item, I want to update you on our Technology Service Center. This is a side view of our current development center where Technology Services is located. You may not know that, and we'll show an aerial view in the next one. This is the original administration building for the district that they're housed in, that was built in 1949. And it is also, besides tech services being there, it is also our Network Operations Center, or our NOC. So obviously, this is serving a purpose that it was not built for. This gives you an idea of where it is, the orientation. This is Lamar High School. This is the junior high, and the development center is in between them there on Stadium Drive. And the main entrance is actually off Stadium Drive. These are some pictures from the interior of it. A technology center has some unique needs. One of the challenges we have is as the district grows and our technology needs grow, we have a need for more staff and to house more staff. This current building has no room for growth, and it also serves, they receive technology shipments, and then they make ready, and then they take them out to the campuses. Really don't have a great make ready space at the current development center. In the 2020 bond, it was earmarked for $3 million to renovate the development center. That renovation really was to renovate the interior space of the building, but it did not really address the MEP, or mechanical, electrical, plumbing issues, which would be also significant dollars. As I've stated, the technology needs for the district and for their staff and that building, really, the needs are unique. So that's when we need to engage an architect with design experience in that type of facility to assist us in taking a look at all our options, including building a new facility. So what are we going to do? We're going to go out for an RFQ for that and take a look at an architect to design a new technology service center that will also have a network operations center inside it. And we're looking at all of our options in terms of how we do that, whether it's a standalone building, whether it's an add-on to another new building we're making. So we're taking a look at those options and what's going to work best for the district, especially in the long term for growth. Any questions on that?
I'll make a comment. That's where I signed my contract when I first came to work for the district. Now,
it probably doesn't look much different.
It once housed where they ran all, if we needed copies made that were in bulk, they did that.
Yes, when we updated the service center, they moved to the new facility.
Right.
Yes, it did, sure
But,
did.
yes, we need to do something.
How, with that space, how often are like semis coming in, dropping off technology, being on Stadium Drive? That's pretty tight right there as it is. Is there, I mean, drop off, pickup of things coming in and out of that building? Is that hectic or is that?
It is a challenge. It is a challenge to receive those, especially if they're palletized.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you don't have a really good dedicated dock for that.
Is there a dock there?
David, what does the receiving area look like?
There's a garage door at ground level.
Yeah.
And it's on the back of the building, so there's an alley. We can get some larger box trucks, but a semi would not be able to make the turn around there.
So with students potentially in that area, you have large delivery trucks coming in and all that. Is it, I mean, it's close to the junior high and the high school, but
That area is closer, it's on the high school side.
Yeah.
Where the garage door is in our kind of receiving area.
awesome.
It's fairly well separated. It's right close to the high school cafeteria entrance. But
Okay.
there's a pretty good separation. There's some space between it, and it's not a traffic area for students on the back of that building. On the front side of our building, there is.
Just the new guy asking questions.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it does not have a dock high area.
So that would be a
That's challenge.
need.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Mr. Hunt?
So just to clarify, there's $3 million in the 2020 bond to renovate this building, but is the plan shifting that we're not going to do the renovations of this building and instead we're going to look for an architect to build a new building with those $3 million in funds?
Yes, we're exploring the options of
Okay.
what would be our best use of those dollars.
Okay.
What we get the most bang for our buck.
Okay, thank you.
So, Mr. Hunt, the idea was, when Mr. Junty first brought it to me, the idea was, assume we have $3 million for the current building. And, you know, I'm from the country in Oklahoma, and I say, you know, that's like putting lipstick on a pig. And so, 'cause you know, I raised pigs growing up. So, but anyway, I know we are about to start building or going out for our police building. And so if we can find a way where we can design that on the same property, and then we can get the labor and materials in bulk along with the police station, then we could save money on that. And so those are the options we're going to explore and see how, if we can get our tech guys and ladies a brand new building for that $3 million or a little bit over that, and not have to go out and build a whole new building, standalone building, outside of a project we already have going on.
I mean, it seems like no matter what, we could put duct tape on this building, but eventually we're gonna have to come back and there's no room and we're growing and growing and growing. We're
Right.
gonna need to build a new center.
Right.
That's correct. Just the size does not meet our needs of the staff. We already have staff that are not in that building that we're housing elsewhere.
No. But if we can get it to piggyback on another project, that we can get those materials and that labor at a bulk expense, and it won't be as expensive, hopefully.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
Now, I'm gonna have Ms. Tomas come up and give you an update on our child nutrition program.
Good evening. So, this first slide here is just to give you a snapshot of the history of participation for breakfast and lunch and where we are now. So the year prior to COVID, which was school year 2018-19, breakfast was at 20% and lunch was at 53%. For school year 2019-20, when school closed due to COVID in March, breakfast was at 22% and lunch was at 57%. For 2021, where we serve both in-person meals and curbside meal distribution, breakfast was at 17% and lunch was at 44%. And for this school year so far, breakfast is at 24% and lunch is at 64%. So this slide shows how we compare to our neighboring school districts for school year 21-22. Compared to, again, we are at 24 for breakfast and 64 for lunch. Katy is at 17% for breakfast and 60% for lunch. Stafford, who participates in the breakfast in the classroom, is at 35% for breakfast and 60% for lunch. And Fort Bend is at 14% for breakfast and 50% for lunch. So you're probably wondering how we choose products for our menu. So we are a member of the School Purchasing Alliance, which there are 35 area school districts usually utilizing SPAL as their co-op. And before any entrees are added to their order guides, it is tested by students in a minimum of 10 school districts. District taste testing. So this year we've completed our first one for this school year this past week, where we did 2 culinary arts classes at George Junior, and we tested a whole muscle breakfast chicken patty from 3 different manufacturers. We also have planned testing for elementary and secondary pizza, a new corn dog, and a few new vegetarian entrees. Also, student surveys. In 2019, we partnered with Prairie View A&M, and we have dietetic interns who are completing their internship here at Lamar. And so as part of their internship, they conduct student surveys and plate waste studies, and when we use that information when we make menu changes. This past summer, we did our first culinary ideation with Land O'Lakes, where they brought out 2 corporate chefs, and they tested 17 different recipes on students throughout the district. So we had students ranging from kindergarten to 11th grade come out. And after each recipe, the kids held up a thumbs up or thumbs down. And so we're planning our second one for this summer. So challenges. So the first challenge we have is USDA has increased sodium restrictions for school year 21-22 by decreasing the allowable sodium by 1/3. They plan on another cut for school year 22-23. Again, USDA has implemented a 100% whole grain requirement for school year 21-22. While in the past we were able to use a white pasta or a white rice, that is no longer allowable this school year moving forward. Staffing shortages. We are currently 30 staff members short throughout the district, and this does not include staff that are currently on TDL or FMLA. But we would like to report we were able to hire 10 employees from the Support Services Job Fair in October. So manufacturer and disposable shortages. Currently, we are receiving between 30 to 40 product substitutions a week from our food distributor, which affects around 1,800 cases of our food that are currently on our menus weekly. Manufacturers are cutting entire production lines due to supply shortages or staffing. Not only does this affect food, but also disposables. So we use disposable trays to help combat staffing shortages at our elementary, but currently there is a nationwide shortage of disposable school lunch trays. We have been lucky, and we are one of the first districts to reach out to other food distributors who do not usually service schools, and I was able to bring in 400 cases into our warehouse. And we have another 200 coming in the next week.
So I'm going to share a few of these things that one, Monica's very humble, and she doesn't talk about all the work that's going on behind the scenes very often to make things happen. And for example, when they talk about those menu substitutions, that's a very challenging situation, and they've handled it by getting other items and still having to qualify with the USDA and TDA for the menu items. So they've done a really good job filling in when all of a sudden things do not become unavailable. And again, as she talked about the shortages of disposables, as everyone's dealing with shortages, everyone started using disposable trays, so they became a shortage of them because everyone was doing the same thing. So her team has been able to really reach out to other suppliers and be very proactive in getting additional cases of those. So that continues to help as we go through that employee shortage. The other one that's listed on there is the Gordon's Food Service case cap. We were alerted that our main food supplier was going to limit the number of cases that the district received each week based on an average that they had for us. I want to emphasize that when that happened, we were still able to have them deliver all of our perishable goods, our frozen foods, refrigerated, to the campuses, but non-perishable, Monica and her team has had to organize, along with other district employees, to go pick those up on the weekend, bring them back, and then they deliver them to the warehouse. And you're seeing a picture there. When those pallets are there, then our staff has to take the time to break those down and then deliver those to the campuses. So it's been a very challenging, again, set of issues that they've dealt with, and they've done a really terrific job with it. And again, we're pulling in other employees to assist with that as well. So.
And so when he says other employees, we mean bus drivers that get off their route. And then they stop driving the bus, they get off their route, and then they go and help unpack food for our young people. And so that's a phenomenal job, guys.
what Kristen mentioned is we actually had to hire an 18-wheeler company this past week to pick up over 2,000 cases of food. And it's actually our office staff that breaks down the pallets. So it's dress casual on Mondays, we break down the pallets, and that's after we've broken down half the pallets. So those are ready to be distributed to the schools. So with that comes price increases. So due to substitutions and again nationwide supply chain issues, we are facing product price increases. So our original 100% beef hamburger patty we processed for the menu costs 45 cents. And it's an item that the manufacturer can no longer produce. We are now paying $1.15 per hamburger patty. So we are receiving weekly notifications of increasing pricing on almost all of our items. So, plans for the future. So we will continue to use beef products without fillers, and then we will continue to use whole muscle chicken. So when we plan a menu, there's two options for chicken. It's either a pressed and formed, which is basically stamped out in the exact same shape, or it's 100% white meat. Here at Lamar, we only use the 100% white meat chicken products. We will continue to buy local products when available, and then we will be testing this spring a customizable menu concept at our secondary locations where they can do build your own subs or build your own tacos. So that's coming this spring to test at one of our schools before we roll it out. Questions?
I have two questions. The stats you talked about with the breakfast, you said 24% currently. Is that 24% of the Lamar students who utilize the free breakfast?
Yes. Yes.
Are there any additional students who just come here and pay for a breakfast? Is that an option for you?
No, that is not an option.
So only 24% of the whole?
Right. Right. Breakfast is always hard. At our elementary schools, we have some of our sites that serve 80 to 90%. Secondaries, unfortunately, they're not big on breakfast, so it's more like 10% at our secondary campuses.
Yeah. The other thing, just out of curiosity, you said there's Orlando Lake chefs that come, and they, so that food that they make, is that those recipes incorporated into the cafeterias?
Yes, we try to incorporate them, so all of those are school foods that they come and test for our kids.
How about that?
Yes.
The children that are not eating the school lunch, I assume they're bringing lunch, or at the junior high or high schools, do they have other options that they can pay for? Isn't that right? A la
All
carte?
our items, yes.
So some of them could be coming in and eating the a la carte and not the,
Right, so it could be chips, it could be side items, stuff like that.
so we just have no control
Right.
over that.
No control over that.
Okay, that's,
I have a question. So with the changes, like from the white pasta to the whole wheat only, is that only with the free and reduced lunches, or
No,
can you?
it's every single lunch.
So you cannot serve any white pasta, and so that's, how is that, like, why is there only one choice if we have à la carte as well? Does that make sense?
A la carte still has to follow the USDA guidelines, because we're selling it during the lunch period. So there are certain rules that have to be followed.
Gotcha, okay. And then remind me, if you will, why do we not use the reusable trays if there's a shortage? I know, I'm assuming it's labor intensive.
Right. We do use them at all of our elementary campuses.
Okay.
But if we're short-staffed, that's a way to fill in by them not having to wash the dishes. But at all elementary campuses, they do have the hard trays.
Gotcha, okay. All
and
right, well,
this school year, again, every campus has breakfast and lunch
For free. Yes.
for free, no matter who you are. That's federal?
Yes.
Okay.
We took part of waivers that were released by USDA.
And once upon a time, the reason we used the trays is because the dishwashers would always be breaking down. So we had both ready to go. That was one of the problems, but.
Yeah.
Mr. Lamar.
So you mentioned the price increase of the hamburger patties, and so if we're getting the waivers from the USDA, are they're supplementing that cost?
No, they do not supplement that cost. This year, they have increased the reimbursement rate. So in the past, let me see, I have it written down. Last year, our reimbursement rate was $3.53 for lunch. They have increased it for this year only to $4.31.
But it could potentially go back down.
It could potentially go back down, yes.
All right, well, thank you for all the hard work.
Yeah, good job, thank you.
Okay, so now we will, I think that's all the information items, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we will now review the future action items. Dr. Nivens?
All right, so we have Mr. Junty again to talk about an architect contract for middle school number 6.
Okay, thank you. So middle school number 6 is a 2020 bond item. It's in the silver track. As we opened Randall and Wright, the middle school is on that, will be on that same site. So this is an example right now of that site, and this is a possible location for the future middle school. We know it's going to be somewhere on this complex. We're actually exploring a couple different options and talking with our folks on the instructional side of what would be the optimal place to put that. So you can see there are some planned areas there. So one of the things that we're seeing, again, we've got PBK that will be the architects because it will be a repeat design of our middle school that we're currently building. So PBK will build that, and the current 2020 bond item for that middle school is $34.7 million.
Any questions?
What's the projected start?
That's a good question, and one of the reasons we're bringing this forward is because in our original projections, when we opened Wright Junior High with grades 6, 7, and 8, there would be a few years before they would reach capacity. That has happened much earlier than we thought, so we are accelerating the timeline on this. So when we can get started, we're hoping for an opening, Kevin?
Well, you're about a 90,000 square foot facility, and if we can get started now, we'll start construction, say, April. So you're looking at possibly 23, August 23. So it's about a 13, 14-month facility to construct. So we just got to get through the initial part of it, be the first part of the year.
And the repeat design saves us a little time without having to go through a total redesign. So,
I know the staff at Wright is very excited about this getting started.
and we are trying to be responsive. You know, we need to be agile and responsive because it is in the bond. We need to control that process of when we get started on it and get it completed. We hear them.
And so just to be clear for everyone in the room, we were not supposed to start construction on this for a couple of years because this is the first year Wright has opened. And so I want to make sure we're clear on that. This is the first year that building has been open, hadn't been open a full semester yet, and they are above capacity already, but they were not supposed to be at capacity for another 2 or 3 years. And so that's how fast we're growing. And so that's why we have expedited middle school number 6 on the silver track, is to relieve the crowding at Wright.
Any other questions?
All right, and our last future action item is Ms. Ludwig. She'll discuss our special education RFP.
So we're in the process of establishing an annual contract for professional services in the area of special education. As you'll see on the screen, we're looking for professionals to provide behavioral support, physical therapy, skilled nursing services, occupational therapy, those types of things. Our intent for this process is to solicit vendor qualifications, so it's an RFQ, and it's from firms that deliver all these various services. We're going to review the submissions and select the most qualified vendors. We look at such things as firm experience, certifications, references, credentials, the ability of the vendors to meet our schedules, criminal history, insurance, and things like that. The special ed department worked with purchasing on the RFQ specifications and the award recommendations. We are looking for hopefully a 5-year cycle. The award will be an annual contract with an option of 4 additional 1-year period contracts. There will have to be mutual agreement between the district and each of the vendors. The purchasing department, I notified 13 vendors, vendors that registered at the purchasing department website. And we also advertised in accordance with state regulations. The qualifications were due, the proposals themselves were due on October 15th, and so the review process is ongoing right now. And next month, a recommendation of vendors will be made to the board.
What funds will we use to,
These would be any and all types of funds.
from special ed?
Mostly general fund.
Okay,
We have some federal funds, of course, too.
offset some of it, okay.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay, we will now be taking any items on the future consent agenda that y'all would like to pull for discussion for the December board meeting. Okay. Hearing none, it is 7:56. We will now go into closed session. We are adjourning to closed session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Open Meetings Act, to discuss personnel, land acquisition, or consultation with our attorney. We're good? Okay, thank you. We are now back in open session. It is 8:38 PM. We have a quorum. Are there any other motions to be made?
I have a motion. Madam Chairman, I move that the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
Somebody turned it on.
Madam Chairman, I move that the Board of Trustees suspend teacher Troy Moore without pay pending discharge.
Do I have a second? Ms. Danziger seconds. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
None opposed, motion carries. Are there any future agenda items to be added?
I was going to request one, but I think I'm going to handle it behind the scenes for now.
Okay,
So,
any others? Are there any upcoming meetings and events?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving.
Yes,
Oh,
right, pig dinner tomorrow night. It'll be our first time going to the pig dinner tomorrow night.
I don't,
Okay, the meeting is adjourned. It is 8:40 PM.